I don't know. I think I'm probably going to let's go ahead and turn this down a little. Welcome into Talking Sports at Work. I am your host, Eric Persley. I'm probably going to eventually stop it with the canned applause thing, but I don't know. It's fun. It's a fun way to start the show. I don't know. I hope everyone has had a fantastic week so far. I hope you had a great Monday and starting off to have a great Tuesday. Um, I am really just popping back on today to co- correct a couple of mistakes from yesterday's episode and give a couple more thoughts on just some things that some a couple things that I've seen since doing the episodes, and then just some stuff that had popped in my head and kind of wish I'd talked about in yesterday's episode. So this is just going to be sort of a supplemental episode, I suppose. Oh, I'm going a lot faster than I should be. I didn't realize. Um, Anywho, yeah. So that's the plan for today. It's going to be, and I mean it this time. It is going to be a short episode because I've only got a handful of topics to talk about. We had a Monday night football game last night, and I've got a few things to mention with both my Vols and my Titans. So I'm going to take a quick break, and then we'll dive into all that. All right, friends, welcome back. So, also, I don't know how yesterday's episode sounded. I'm still figuring out the kinks of this new software, and I think it may have had yesterday's, when I was recording it, I think it may have been doing it on the microphone through the Bluetooth instead of the AirPod. So, I don't know. I hope it didn't sound terrible. I didn't actually listen to it. But anyway, a couple of things just first, right off the bat. One thing I wanted to correct is yesterday afternoon, I looked it up and I had talked about how I was surprised that College Game Day wasn't going to be in Norman for the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. Well, it turns out they actually are. So I don't know how I missed that because normally when College Game Day is going to be covering one of the Tennessee games, I just see stuff or hear stuff about it somehow, but I hadn't this time. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's partly because it's not in Knoxville, but I don't know. But Game Day is actually going to be there in Norman, Oklahoma. And one reason why I thought that they weren't going to be there is another mistake that I made on yesterday's show. I was looking at Alabama's schedule and saw that their next game was against Georgia, and that's obviously going to be one of the biggest games of the year, and so I just assumed they're going to be there. Well, it's actually not next week. That game is the following week. I thought it was going to be, I just saw that it was Alabama's next game, and I saw the time, and I was like, oh man, that means they're going to be playing the same time as our game against Oklahoma, so everybody's going to be watching that. Well, actually, that one's the next week. Alabama, and I guess maybe Georgia too, but at least Alabama has a bye this week, so they're not playing. Their next game is Alabama, Georgia, but it's not going to be the same day and time as the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. So we will still get the eyes of the nation on us for that one, which is hopefully going to be a great thing. I mean, I think it is. And so, yeah, those were the two corrections that I wanted to make. One about College Game Day and also about the Georgia-Alabama game. So, aside from that, I just started looking into the game, the matchup a little bit more because I hadn't really watched Oklahoma much this year at all. I know that they've been, from what I have seen over the last couple of years, a little bit disappointing. And I talked to a friend of mine about this under Venables, and it was a surprising hire for me anyway, given that it's Oklahoma with this, long history of Big 12, big time offense, and then they go out and hire one of the best defensive minds in college football as their head coach. So it was always a strange hire, and it was always going to take time to adjust. I mean, when you've been that, you go from Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley for years and years, and then you go from that to a defensive minded guy, and you're still going to be Oklahoma. I mean, you're still going to, they were up until this year still in the Big 12. They still needed to put up points, still needed to throw the ball and gain a bunch of yards. But it was clear with who they hired that they were going to be going, they were going to be putting more of an emphasis on defense, if nothing else. And that was just going to take time. And it seems like they are finally starting to work out some of those kinks and get on that track. Bring in a new head coach. It's going to take time to get his recruits in there, get his system implemented, get his culture, throughout the organization. So it's just taking time. It feels like they're maybe getting there. But my biggest worry, honestly, was that first year, Brett Venables was, it looked like he was going to be a complete failure. I thought they might fire him after that first year. And if they did, everybody would have known who was going to be the top target they would have gone for. It would have been Josh Heupel. And so that was my biggest fear, was that, Oklahoma's going to say, we made a mistake with Venables. Let's go get Josh Heupel. And that given that he's an Oklahoma alum, maybe they would have been able to take him from us. But now I don't worry about that. I mean, obviously they have stuck with Brett, and I think that Josh is fully entrenched and fully, a Tennessee guy now. I don't see him going anywhere. That is the only place that I think he would have even considered, just because of his history there, winning a national championship there. But it's not like Tennessee. It's not like there's any other job out there in college football that is definitively better than Tennessee. I mean, even like the Alabama job or an Ohio State, one of these, major elite, historic powerhouse. It's not even going to be that much really of a step up. I mean, it's still Tennessee. Anything that you can do at Alabama, Ohio State, you can do at Tennessee. We've got the history, we've got the money, we've got the tradition, we've got all that stuff. We just don't have the recent success of a lot of those teams. But we're getting there. And anyway, I got off track there. What I was trying to talk about was I dove into the matchup a little bit, and something that I didn't even realize, actually. I was looking at team stats. Tennessee is currently in the nation right now. Let me go back. I just want to see if I can look at this. I think we were number 2 in total offense, yards per game in the nation. I think we were number 1 in points per game, and that's not a big surprise. I mean, it's always awesome. I'm not saying we should take that for granted, but it's it's pretty cool to see. It's not shocking with what we've been under Heupel. But what did surprise me was I went and looked at the defensive stats. We're actually number in the top 2, I think, in both scoring and total defense as well. Which now that did surprise me. And I know everybody's going to say, well, it's first 3 weeks of the season. Who have they played? Okay, so yeah, we're number 2 right now in yards allowed, behind Ohio State. And in terms of points per game allowed, I don't know. I'm trying to. I had this pulled up where I could just look at it and I wouldn't have to find it again. But now anyway. Points per game. We may have been. I don't know. We were number 2, I think, in that as well. So we were in the top 2 or 3 in yards allowed and points allowed, as well as yards and points on offense. So we're in the top 2, I think, at least top 3 in all of those categories. The one team that's ahead of us in total offense is Ole Miss. And, with them, you definitely can say they really have not played anybody, and they're still not going to play anybody. Even next week, they've got another cupcake. Obviously, their schedule is finally going to start having some meaningful games in it after this week, but it was strange to see, a team opening with basically 4 cupcakes. I mean, the only even Power 5, Power 4 team that they play in these first 4 games is Wake Forest, and, I mean, it's Wake Forest. So, I'm not trying to pile on Ole Miss or anything, but it's worth saying that even though Tennessee's played 2 cupcakes, North Carolina State is not one. We just made them look like they were. So we have at least played one decent team. Now, they're not an SEC level team, but we have played at least one real opponent so far. But then what I was really trying to look at, I was trying to dig into the Oklahoma a little bit and what their seasons look like. And of course, you can only tell so much by the numbers. But I was a little surprised because I'd been hearing that this Oklahoma defense is elite, and their offense is still sort of figuring out some of the kinks, but the defense is elite. But by the numbers, they're really not. And again, I know that doesn't tell the whole story. You can only learn so much by looking at, especially just generalized numbers like points allowed and yards allowed. But they were like middle of the road and actually towards the bottom of the SEC in one or both of the. I think they were like middle of the pack in yards and I think they were towards the bottom in yards allowed, and then like middle of the pack in points allowed, or vice versa. I don't remember. I wish I could. I'm just not gonna. I don't feel like pulling over and looking it up. But right now, the point is, just judging by the most generalized number that everybody goes by to, determine the success of an offense or defense, it's generally yards allowed, and points per game. They're average in terms of SEC. Now, nationally, I'm sure they're, ranked higher. They're probably, in the top whatever. But just now they're playing with big boys in the SEC. This does not appear to be an elite defense just looking at these numbers. So, I mean, they better hope that they play their absolute best game of the year on both sides of the ball if they're going to have a chance. And even at home, I just think this Tennessee team is the real deal. This is the team we have been waiting for. Hey friends, sorry, we had a little interruption there. I'm not entirely sure where it cut off, but I was just saying I feel like this Tennessee team is the team that we have been waiting for close to 20 years now. This is the real deal. It's not just the high-powered, hyper offense. It is a complete team, and it is elite on both sides of the ball. And we have the best quarterback that we've had. I don't know. I mean, we can at least say, and I know this isn't saying much, but I think we can definitively say he's the best quarterback that we've had since Hendon Hooker. But right now, all indications are that we now have the best quarterback that we've had since Peyton Manning. And, that's obviously the absolute highest of praise. And he's just getting started. So a lot to be excited about with the elite offense. We always have elite skill positions, one of the best offensive lines in the SEC, and a great quarterback, a great young quarterback who's just going to continue to get better, and then an elite defense as well. Now, again, the big question is going to continue to be the secondary with all the young players, all the new faces. We know how incredible the front is. In fact, it's, I think, inarguably one of the best defensive fronts in college football. And a debate. What's the word I'm trying to look for? Debate. What is the word I'm trying? Shit. Arguably, I guess, the best defensive line in college football. But so as long as that back end can hold up, which, having a front that is that elite really helps the back end. But yeah, I mean, this is just a complete team. And Oklahoma, while they are good, they are Oklahoma, and it feels like they are finally starting to get things kind of going the way that Venables would want them to. I just think that it feels like we are, if not on another level, at least just clearly better. Now, the home field thing, that's the thing to worry about. That's going to be the big question mark. This is going to be the first game that Nico has ever played on the road. I mean, obviously he played in the bowl game last year, but that wasn't really, that was a neutral site. This is going to be his first road game. And he played the neutral site game against NC State, where there were a lot of NC State fans, but it was still a neutral site. This is going to be the first full-on road game, and I still feel weird calling it an SEC road game because it's Oklahoma, but I mean, it is. And even before they were in the SEC, playing at Oklahoma was still going to be tough for anybody. I mean, I remember, going back a few years ago, back when Baker was there, and playing them. I think we played them once at Oklahoma and once at Tennessee and lost both, and they were very close games. And I don't remember all the specifics, but I just remember some heroics by Baker that won them the game late. I think that was the one when we were at Oklahoma. But anyway, we've got a little bit of recent history there. Well, relatively recent, going back, I don't know how long it's been, maybe 8-9 years, however long ago. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I just feel like we are the clear favorite right now in that game. And I worry about being on the road. I worry about how well is the secondary going to hold up now that they're really going to be tested against some Oklahoma receivers and Jackson Arnold, who at times seems like a really good quarterback. And that he's got that talent. So I'm not saying that I think we're just going to run them out of their own building, but I do think that I think that the number that I saw last, which was us favored by 7.5 on the road, seems about right. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. I mostly just wanted to correct what I was saying about the college game day and the schedule thing, but I did want to give some additional thoughts on Oklahoma, and I'm going to continue to dive into that in more detail as the week goes along once I have time, which, I mean, I just hardly ever have time for anything now, especially now. I mean, that's normally the case, but now I'm working. I usually work 4 10-hour days, but now I'm having to work all 5 days through the week. And so 5 10-hour days, so I no longer have my Wednesday off, which is normally my day to do schoolwork and catch up on housework and whatever other sort of things that I need to do. I usually have that day. I no longer have that, and now with Jack playing football, that takes up a big part of our Saturday, especially now that I'm coaching as well. That takes up a big part of that day. And then I'm not even going to pretend that I can get much done on football Saturdays and Sundays anyway. I can't. So, I mean, but, this is actually something that's related to, I guess I'm talking about like schoolwork and other things I know I can't get done during football. But, when it comes to the podcast and the YouTube channel and all that, at least it's in the same field, and, maybe I can get some research done and some, some more I'm rambling now, it feels like. I don't know. I'm in a good mood today for some reason. It's strange. I wish I could identify, like, the trends of why some days I just wake up on the right side of the bed, because it's rare, but I wish I could really nail down, okay, what did I do differently, what is the variable here that I can maybe try to continue doing. But anyway, I'm going to take another quick break and we'll dive into just a couple little quick topics that I had left on my mind. I don't know if this is connected through my AirPods or through... Alright, give me just a minute. Okay, let's try this again. I think we are back on the AirPods now. I don't know what happens with this, man. It's so frustrating. But just a couple other topics that I had on my mind. One that I'll dive into with some detail. But first, we had a really good Monday Night Football game last night. The Falcons, with a late fourth quarter comeback, got their first win of the season, and boy, it looked like after all the optimism and all the excitement and all the hype around the Falcons going into this year, it looked like that was about to come crashing down after last week and then for much of this game. But Kirk Cousins in that fourth 2-minute drive really looked like the guy that they hoped they were getting. Just drove the ball down the field. It felt like with almost no resistance. And they took the lead and won. And that was really a great game. And then the Eagles even had an opportunity there with 30-something seconds left, I think, to come back. But they were unable to do it, and the Falcons got the win. Actually, Jalen Hurts threw an interception, which is another topic that's going to continue to be a topic because he's back to turning the ball over a lot, it seems like. But, good for the Falcons. There are obviously a lot of Falcons fans around here, a lot of people who were Falcons fans before Tennessee even had a team. And so, I still just feel a little bit of affection for them, I guess, as well, and kind of root for them when I don't have another rooting interest, I guess. But I also did win a bet on that one I've been killing it on these first touchdown scorer bets. And I'm not going to say that I'm just, touchdown Nostradamus or anything. I'm spreading it a little bit. What I'm doing is putting one bet on one guy from each team as the first touchdown scorer, and just guys that I feel like are most likely. This time I did it on Devontae Smith because it just felt like A.J. Brown is out, so he's going to be the clear, undoubted number one receiver target. The defense is going to be keying on Saquon Barkley because of all that he did and all the touchdowns he scored last week. And, so it was really between Devontae and Jalen Hurts, and just the odds were better for Devontae, and so I took him. And then I think I had Bijan Robinson or Kyle Pitts maybe on the other one, but, anyway, it doesn't matter. But, yeah, good win for the Falcons. Happy for them. Another quick thought, something I heard discussed on the radio this morning that I just was right about and didn't even get to, I planned on talking about this some in my podcast after that week 1 Titans game, but really couldn't because I was just consumed by the failure of the Titans and how we gave this game away. But it seemed like the majority of the media was really high on the Bears going into this season. And you'll remember I said I think that is totally unwarranted. I think everybody is way too high on this team. And now all of them are jumping ship, and most of them will claim that they never said anything like that. But most of the media that I heard talk about the Bears preseason were saying that they would win double digit games, that they were going to be a playoff team, that they were going to even compete in that division. And it's just funny to hear how now no one actually said anything like that. No, none of them actually believed in the Bears now that they're 1-1 and should be 0-2. But what I said all along about them was I don't believe in their coach. I think they should have fired Matt Eberflus. I do not think he is a good head coach, and I think in keeping him for this year, he's essentially going to prove to be a lame duck this year, and so they've just wasted Caleb Williams' rookie year, his most impactful year, the most important year for a quarterback, you've just totally wasted on a coach that's not even going to be there next year. Because if they, keep looking like they have, he will not be there next year. And I just felt like, there was no reason for them to keep him. I think they could have gone out and gotten a Ben Johnson. I think he would have loved the opportunity to go to Chicago, even though it's in the division. I don't know, maybe not. But to go and coach Caleb Williams, and with all that they had, the assets and the young talent, it just felt like that's a team that could have coaxed him away from Detroit. But they could have gone out and gotten him. They could have gotten Bobby Slowick, some offensive minded head coach that you're going to pair with your young number one overall quarterback, and that you hope is going to be the pairing for the next decade plus. But instead, they kept Matt Eberflus, who at best had shown himself over these last few years to be maybe average, maybe decent as a head coach, but I didn't even think he had proven that. They just got hot there on defense for the last few weeks of last season, but it still wasn't even like they were, really pushing for the playoffs or anything. But anyway, it's just funny to hear now how the media backtracks on everything, and none of them actually believed in the Bears. But what I will point out is that now even some of them are starting to doubt Caleb Williams. I don't think that that's warranted. I still do believe he is going to be a very good quarterback in this league. I just think he's not in the great position that everybody made it out to be. I don't think he's got a coach that is going to be his coach for the future. I don't think he's got a great offensive coordinator. And I don't believe in their talent, the talent around him, nearly as much as everybody else does. But anyway, that was just some quick thoughts on the Bears and Monday Night Football. There's one topic I wanted to dive into just really quickly, and then we'll call it a day. So bear with me. I'll be right back. Alrighty, friends, back again. No pun intended there on the bear with me thing. I just realized I said that after the fact. But anyway, so something I saw this morning just on a notification for one of the podcasts that I have on my list that I listen to occasionally. It was a Titans based podcast. I don't even remember which one it was. But now, full disclosure, I did not listen to it. I just saw the headline for it, and it said something along the lines of, does Will Levis pass the eye test as a franchise quarterback or a starting quarterback in the NFL? And that just really got me to thinking, because I think that is the number one question, and just in the front of all Titans fans' minds right now is just, how much can we continue to believe in him? How much should we continue to believe and be hopeful about him? And, my thing all along is I try to look at this stuff and have recent historical comparisons. And you guys have heard me talk about Josh Allen a lot when it comes to Will Levis. And so I got to thinking, just looking at what we've seen from Will Levis so far, if you could take away the turnovers, he's looked really good. Yeah, if you take away the turnovers, he absolutely looks like a franchise quarterback in this league. But you can't do that. You can't just take away the turnovers, obviously. Those are a massive factor in quarterback play. And he continues to not just turn the ball over, but to make these inexplicable, just ridiculous mistakes and cause his team to lose the game. And now 2 weeks in a row, really. Um, and so I get that got me to thinking, so is he more Josh Allen or is he more Jameis Winston? Because those are the two guys that it feels like right now just come to mind when I'm thinking about comparisons for Will Levis. And with Josh Allen, he was very raw coming into the NFL and, needed time to develop. He needed talent around him. He needed to but you saw every year just steady improvement with him till the point where by his third or fourth year, he was definitively one of the best quarterbacks in football and an MVP caliber quarterback. But his rookie year, he looked terrible. Even his second year, if I remember correctly, he still did. There were a lot of questions about him. Um, but he just continued to get better every year. Now, so far, we can't say that about Levis. But we also can't say he didn't have a full rookie year to play. He only played not even half the games, I think, last season. Um, so it's not a completely accurate comparison, but he did have a full off season, and I think that's a big part of it to get better. And he still continues to make some of the more ridiculous, just inexplicable, just crazy mistakes that no quarterback at any level should make. Um, and so that's troubling. And so, what I'm saying, I guess, is you just wonder, is he more Josh Allen, who's the kind of guy who's going to continue to get better, who is the kind of player that will win you games, who will turn the ball over still occasionally, but you live with it because of all he does for you. You have to live with some of those mistakes and some of those turnovers just because all the crazy positive things he does outweigh them significantly. Or is he more Jameis Winston, where, yeah, Jameis has a rocket arm. He's at times looks like a really good quarterback, but he turns the ball over so much that it's just not worth it. Like his turnovers and his mistakes outweigh the positives. And so far, through these first two games, I think the answer is clearly, yeah, he's looked more like Jameis Winston than Josh Allen. But is he going to get better? That's the only thing. I mean, if we're just judging him by these first two games, no, that dude is not an NFL quarterback. It's just he's not. But he's only played, I don't know, I don't even know how many, like 8, 9 games in the NFL now. He's still, in his first year with this new head coach, this new offensive system, this young offensive line, these new receivers, these new, so there are a lot of reasons you could look at to say, he can still get better. But I mean, all we can do right now, all we can judge him by is what we've seen so far. And what we've seen so far has been terrible. I mean, honestly, somehow this year in these first two games, he's looked worse than at any point I remember last year as a rookie. Now he made some ugly mistakes and some turnovers and wasn't great for a lot of last year at times last year, but I mean there weren't these kinds of games where there were just these crazy mistakes that definitively lost us the game. So, if anything, I mean, you worry that he's regressed, but I don't know. I don't know. But there's still reason to believe because you see, if you take away the turnovers, yeah, he looks really good. But you can't just do that. You can't take away the turnovers. The only reason you would do that is to try to judge it by if this stuff can be coached out of him. If these things can be fixed, then yeah, you can look at it without the turnovers and say, okay, there's a lot of positives there. But if these things are going to continue to be lingering issues, then no, this is not the guy. And we're going to be, looking at a Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers or whoever, probably early in the draft next year with the way things are going so far. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I wanted to keep this show short today, and so far I'm still under 30 minutes. I've only got about 8 seconds left to be under 30 minutes, but I just wanted to keep it short today. So those are my thoughts. I hope everyone has a wonderful Tuesday. I hope you have a wonderful week. I'll be back again at some point in the future. And yeah, that's all. Love you. Bye.